When I was younger, my dad used to say that nothing truly bad ever happens in Westfield. This town's too boring for danger, he'd laugh, sipping cheap coffee while thumbing through the morning paper. And honestly, I believed him. Westfield, Illinois was all winding bike paths, golden retrievers on porches and neighborhood garage sales. The kind of place where kids grow up with scraped knees and Target receipts in their pockets. It's the kind of town people move to because they're tired of bad surprises. I was 24 when I learned that danger doesn't care how boring your town is. It had been a long week. Work had slowed down and my immune system had tanked after a hectic photo shoot for a small event agency. I was coughing through my sleep and trying to ride it out, but by Saturday night I was done pretending I was getting better. My apartment was silent except for the occasional rattle of wind against the windows and that distant hum of traffic from Route 59. I stood in my kitchen wearing 3 layers of clothes, chugging lukewarm tea, and finally gave in. I needed cold medicine. It was almost 8:30 p.m. when I grabbed my keys, slipped on an old black hoodie, and drove out to Target on Fernbrook Parkway. The sky had that purplish-gray look like the cold was bruising the clouds. The parking lot was mostly empty, lit by those buzzing halogen lamps that made the air feel even colder. I parked 2 rows from the entrance, close enough to see the glass doors slide open and shut. The store was warm inside, deceptively welcoming, familiar. The kind of place that always smells like popcorn, laundry detergent, and cinnamon candles in November. I grabbed one of those red baskets and let my boots tap rhythmically down the slick floor toward the pharmacy section. I remember thinking how calm everything felt. A handful of shoppers, no music playing, just the faint humming of lights above and the wheels of a distant cart. It felt like a silent movie. That's when I turned down the cold medicine aisle. He was already there, mid-30s, tall, maybe 6 feet, in a faded green jacket that had seen better days. He wore a beanie pulled low over curly blonde hair, and his posture was oddly still. Not the kind of stillness you get from reading labels. More like he was waiting. His eyes were locked on the shelves, but they didn't scan. They stared. I stepped in quietly, pretending to study the shelves. The moment I stopped walking, he spoke. "Cold season's huh?" I glanced over briefly, gave a polite half-smile. "Yeah, just trying to get ahead of it." He turned his body toward me, eyes too bright, too fixed. "You from around here?" I lied automatically. "Just visiting family." He nodded slowly. "You look familiar, though, like I've seen you here before." I shrugged, tried not to meet his eyes. "Maybe." He stepped closer. "I'm Kyle." My gut twisted. I didn't want to say my name, but something about the silence hanging between us demanded a response, so I said, "Emily." His lips twitched into a grin. "Nice name. You hear often?" I forced a chuckle. "Who isn't?" And then the moment that still makes my skin crawl. "You're into photography, right?" I froze. That blog, Small Town Light, wasn't exactly private, but it wasn't viral either. My name wasn't even listed on the homepage. "I guess," I said carefully. "We should hang out sometime, coffee." Everything in me screamed no, but I nodded and I gave him my real number. I still don't know why. Maybe fear, maybe instinct. But it wasn't the end. That was only the beginning. By the time I made it home, the texts had already started. A few were friendly, kind even. "Hope you made it back safe. Loved your last post. How'd you get that alleyway light so perfect?" But when I didn't reply, things shifted quickly. "Why aren't you texting back? I know you're reading these, you're online. Don't play games with me, Emily." By 2 a.m. I was shaking. The tone had gone from awkward to angry. I blocked him. But in the following hours, he messaged from new numbers, strange usernames on Instagram, even commented on old blog posts I'd forgotten about. The next morning, I went straight to my dad. He didn't say much, just nodded, grabbed his keys, and told me I wasn't going anywhere alone. He drove me to work, picked me up, and waited outside whenever I had errands. I kept hoping it would blow over, that maybe Kyle would get bored and move on. But it only got worse. One night we pulled into Target again. We needed paper towels. I didn't see Kyle at first, but the air felt different, heavier, like someone watching you through a window. I spotted him near the self-checkout, half hidden in a hoodie, eyes following me. My dad saw him too. He didn't panic, just walked straight to customer service, whispered something. A security officer, off-duty cop I think, approached Kyle and asked to step outside. Kyle got loud, accused me of ruining his life, said we were liars. He was detained. In his jacket was a loaded Glock 19. In his car, zip ties, no job, no home, just a van and a list of cities he drifted through. Almost a year has passed. He's still in jail, awaiting trial. I've got pepper spray in every bag now. A legal restraining order sits folded in my nightstand, and every time I step into a store, especially Target, I walk faster, keep my eyes low, and never linger near cold medicine. I think about how close I came to being a headline, all because I didn't want to be rude. Trust your instincts. Politeness should never come at the cost of your safety. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And no matter how familiar a place may seem, danger doesn't always wear a mask. It sometimes looks like the guy reading a NyQuil box too slowly on a quiet Saturday night. For the past 3 years, I'd lived alone in a second-floor apartment just off Bellevue Road in Ashburn, Virginia. It wasn't anything special. 900 square feet, plain carpet, low water pressure, and the occasional mystery smell from the downstairs unit. But it was mine. Quiet, secure, and tucked far enough from the highway that I never heard sirens or traffic. I liked it that way. I liked my peace, and I worked hard to keep it that way. My name's Lena Marshall. I'm a retail merchandiser by trade. That means I spend half the week helping set up seasonal displays in big box stores, Target, Walmart, Costco, while the other half is dedicated to product resets and inventory. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, predictable, and in a life where everything else seemed to change faster than I could catch my breath, I needed that. I've always been careful, maybe too careful. I've had a strict online privacy routine since I was in college. No geotagging, no public posts unless they're scrubbed of metadata. I use a VPN. I check for cameras in Airbnbs. I tape over my laptop webcam, not because I'm paranoid, but because I know people. I know how easily they can twist something harmless into something dangerous. That kind of awareness doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from watching it happen to people you love. And I promised myself that wouldn't be me. So when it did happen, when my safe little system cracked, I felt like the world had shifted under my feet. It was a Saturday morning in mid-April. I remember it clearly because the sun was out and the cherry blossoms near Kinsley Park were just starting to open. I woke up at 8 o'clock like I always do, made my iced coffee, threw on a cropped hoodie and jeans, and headed out for my usual Target run. I like going early before the families with squeaky carts and crying toddlers flood the aisles. I pulled into the parking lot at 9:25 sharp. Earbuds in, mental checklist loaded, toothpaste, allergy meds, cat food, oat milk, in and out. The store was calm, the lighting soft, and the playlist quietly pumping old Maroon 5. I was in my zone, cruising through aisles like I owned the place. I didn't notice anything strange, not one red flag. There were people, sure, but it was early and most were older. No one approached me. No one stared too long. I remember thinking, this is why I come here early. I checked out, walked straight to my car, unlocked it without slowing down, and drove home by 10 o'clock. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated with a strange notification. You've been tagged in 3 photos by OK9L3 Watcher. The name meant nothing. No profile picture, no followers, just a blank account tagging me out of nowhere. I tapped the notification. 3 pictures loaded, all of me in Target that morning. One crouched by the meds aisle, one mid-step near the chips, one in the parking lot, coffee in hand, unlocking my car. I froze, a full body freeze. Someone had followed me. And worse, they'd captured it, documented it, shared it. I shot up from my couch, heart pounding, locked my door, pulled down the blinds, checked the peephole twice. Then I went back to the profile. Gone. Deleted. No trace. Just those images burned into my brain like static. I sent screenshots to Mallory, my best friend, also a cybersecurity grad. She tried, but everything had been scrubbed clean. Metadata stripped, account wiped. Whoever it was knew what they were doing. The worst part, I couldn't place anyone from the store. No one stood out except there was a guy 2 shelves over in the meds aisle. Red windbreaker, ball cap pulled low. I thought he was browsing. He never looked at me directly, but now I wondered. I didn't go out the rest of the weekend. Monday morning, I filed a report with Ashburn PD. They were polite but dismissive. No threat was made, they told me, no crime committed, but they hadn't seen those photos. I deleted every public image of my apartment, turned off all my locations, set all my profiles to private, bought a peephole camera, and installed a wireless rear dash cam. It still didn't feel like enough. I became hypersensitive. Every time I heard the doorbell, I checked the peephole twice before even thinking about opening it. I scanned every car I passed while walking from my parking space. I changed where I sat in coffee shops. Even in public, I felt like I was under glass. 3 weeks passed. No more tags, no messages, no odd photos. It was like it had all just stopped. But I couldn't forget the feeling that someone had taken time to study me, track my steps, capture images of me without my knowledge in the most casual, vulnerable moments. Eventually, I had to go back to Target. I couldn't avoid it forever. Groceries were running low and I'd exhausted every Instacart promo I could find. So one Saturday morning, almost a month after the photos, I went back. The parking lot looked the same. So did the doors. The air even smelled the same. Fresh mulch from the landscaping crew. But something was off. Not about the place. About me. My heartbeat picked up as I walked through the automatic doors. I paused to look around. Nothing out of the ordinary. Still, I kept my earbuds out. Every squeaky wheel, every overhead announcement, every person walking behind me felt magnified. I rushed through my list, stuck to the edges of aisles, kept my head on a swivel. I didn't see anyone familiar. No red windbreaker, no ball cap. But I didn't linger. In and out. Weeks passed. Slowly, I tried returning to normal. My privacy settings remained locked. My habits were altered permanently. I stopped posting photos of myself altogether. If I wanted to share a moment, it would be a photo of my cat, a landscape, or food. Never my face, never my location. I started taking the stairs more often, choosing the busier routes and parking lots, skipping quiet parks on my morning walks, and even then I never really felt safe. I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. There's a difference. One Thursday morning in June, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Still shop at Target, Lena." Just those 6 words. No photos, no context, no name. I blocked the number immediately and saved a screenshot. I drove straight to the police station and showed them. This time they took it more seriously. The officer said they'd add it to the initial report and contact my phone provider to see if the number was traceable. Mallory sat with me in the waiting room, not saying anything, just being there. I don't remember what I said to her, only that I cried harder than I expected. That text shattered any illusion I had of recovery. Whoever it was hadn't forgotten me. They had just paused, and the scariest part was not knowing why or what came next. That was the last message I got. As of today, there haven't been any more tags, any more images, any more texts. But that doesn't mean I stopped looking over my shoulder. I've upgraded all my home security. I carry pepper spray. I changed the locks. I've learned to trust my instincts even when they seem excessive. People like to say you shouldn't live in fear, that if you let one incident control your life, they win. But that's the thing. Living in fear doesn't mean being weak. It means being aware. This happened to me. It was real. It could happen to anyone. All it takes is one moment, one person, one photo. I don't know who he was. I probably never will. But I know he watched me without my permission. He captured my routine, my habits, my silence. And that's something I'll never ignore again. In a world where technology makes everyone accessible, privacy is something you have to guard fiercely. Just because you feel safe doesn't mean you're unseen. Always be aware, because someone might be watching even when everything feels normal. I never thought much about night shifts until I started working them. When you grow up in Los Angeles, you get used to the rhythm of noise, traffic on the 405, helicopters buzzing overhead, sirens somewhere in the distance. Silence here isn't peaceful, it's suspicious. If a block goes quiet, it usually means trouble. I'm Jordan Alvarez, 26, and for the last 8 months I've been working overnights at the Target on Highland and Santa Monica Boulevard, right on the edge of Hollywood. People think of LA as glamorous, neon lights, influencers, premieres. But it's also just grocery runs, bill collectors, and jobs that grind you down. Mine was one of those jobs. I didn't mind. After dropping out of community college and bouncing between food service gigs, I needed something stable. Target gave me that. A union card, steady hours, benefits if I lasted a year. My mom was proud, and honestly, that was enough. But night shifts have their own atmosphere. Customers are gone, music is lower, fluorescent lights hum like mosquitoes, and the building feels too big, too empty. You hear your own footsteps echo down aisles of cereal boxes and plastic toys. The silence becomes a presence. Sometimes it feels like you're not alone, even when you know you are. That Friday night, January 14th, was my 7th straight overnight. I clocked in at 10:54 p.m., slid on the red polo, and headed to the back room. "Yo, Jay," called Marcus Lee, one of my coworkers, tall and skinny with an endless supply of sarcasm. "You look like death, bro." "Thanks," I muttered, grabbing a pallet jack. "No, for real," he said, walking beside me. "You been on 7 straight?" "Sylvia's killing us, man." Sylvia Tran, our night shift lead, was ex-Army, early 40s, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued. She didn't smile much, but she kept things running. I respected her, even if she scared the hell out of me. Tonight's crew was small. Me, Marcus Camille Torres, a single mom who worked nights because it paid better, and Sylvia. 4 of us in a store that stretched longer than a football field. By midnight, we'd fallen into routine. Marcus on grocery, Camille in seasonal, me in housewares, Sylvia floating. I was stocking towels when Marcus came over, looking uneasy. "Yo, did Sylvia bring in another temp tonight?" "Not that I know of." "Why?" He lowered his voice. "I swear I just saw someone buy toys, hoodie up. Didn't look like security." I laughed nervously. "Maybe your reflection." "Don't start," he shot back. "I'm serious." We walked to toys together. Aisle lights flickered on as we entered. Nothing. Just rows of dolls staring blankly, board games stacked too neatly. Marcus shook his head. "I'm telling you, someone was here." I shrugged it off, but something about the way the doll's glass eyes reflected the light made my stomach turn. Backstory: I wasn't always this jumpy. Growing up in Boyle Heights, I'd seen worse than shadows in department stores. My dad left when I was 12, and my mom raised me and my little sister by herself, working 2 jobs. Nights were when things felt unsafe. Sirens, arguments through thin walls, gunshots sometimes. I learned to sleep light, ears always tuned. Maybe that's why I felt things others didn't. Little shifts in air pressure, the difference between silence and wrong silence. By 1:30 a.m., the storm outside picked up. LA doesn't get much rain, but when it does, the whole city feels strange. Water hammered the roof like a drum. I headed to the break room for a snack. Passing aisle 19, I froze. The motion light flicked on. At the far end, someone stood still. Hoodie up, back to me. "Hey," I called. No movement. "Store's closed, man. You can't be here." Still nothing. My throat tightened. I backed away, heart pounding, and nearly crashed into Sylvia. "What's your problem?" she snapped. "There's someone," I stammered. "A guy in aisle 19. She frowned, stormed past me, Marcus trailing. We all went back together. The aisle was empty. Lights dimmed again. Sylvia scanned the floor. No wet footprints, no carts. "You seeing things, Alvarez?" "I know what I saw." Marcus nodded quickly. "I saw him earlier too." Sylvia exhaled. All right, security sweep. She radioed the guard who checked entrances, all locked, no sign of entry. Dialogue-heavy section. In the break room, tension crackled. Camille. Okay, both of you saw somebody? Me. Yeah. Marcus. Tall hoodie, just standing. Sylvia. This is Hollywood. We get crazies sneaking in all the time. Maybe he slipped out, Camille. But the doors. Sylvia, cutting her off. Stay focused. If he comes back, we'll know I looked at Marcus. His leg was bouncing. He whispered, I'm not crazy, right? I whispered back, not unless I am too. Hours dragged. At 2:47 a.m., the lights and electronics flickered. Then came a heavy thud, metal against tile. We rushed there. Between rows of flat screens, she stood. Not a man. Not what Marcus described. A girl. Soaking wet, long black hair sticking to her face, barefoot. Her fingers twitched like she was testing the air. Camille gasped. Oh my God, are you okay? The girl didn't respond. Her eyes, milky, clouded, locked on me. Do you need help? I asked, voice shaking. She turned and bolted down the aisle. We chased, but when we rounded the corner, she was gone. Emergency exits were locked. Hallways empty. Security cameras showed nothing. Emotional fallout. Back in the break room, everyone was pale. Camille clutched her cross necklace. She looked dead. Marcus whispered, That's what I saw before. Not a guy. Her Sylvia rubbed her temples. All right, nobody leaves alone. Stick together until morning. We tried to keep working, but none of us focused. Every squeak of the building made us jump. The air felt colder, heavy. At 3:33 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. 6 words. Still working target nights, Jordan? My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone outside family where I worked. I showed Marcus. He muttered, That's messed up. I blocked the number, but fear lingered. Climax build. At 4:10 a.m., Marcus screamed from Seasonal. We sprinted there. He was pointing at the floor. Wet footprints. Small, bare, leading between aisles. They weren't here a second ago, he gasped. We followed the prints until they stopped by the mirror display. My reflection stared back, but behind me another figure, the girl. I spun. Nothing. Mirror empty again. Camille sobbed. I'm not staying here. I quit. I don't care, Sylvia looked rattled for the first time. Everyone to the office. Now we locked ourselves in. Security pulled more footage. Every time the cameras glitched, the girl appeared for a frame, standing behind one of us. Me in housewares, Marcus in grocery, Camille in Seasonal, always just watching. The ending. By sunrise, we left together, shaken. Camille never came back. Marcus quit a week later. I stayed. Bills don't wait for ghosts. But the store changed for me. Aisles whispered with silence too thick. Motion lights flickered when I walked past. And sometimes in the corner of my eye I saw wet footprints forming on tile. The last straw came one night in February. I was alone in towels. I bent to stock the bottom shelf. When I stood up, she was inches from me in the mirror panel. Hair dripping, eyes blank, mouth opening slowly like she wanted to speak. The overhead lights snapped off. Total darkness. My heart slammed. When they flicked back on, she was gone. I clocked out that night and never returned. People ask why I quit. I just say Target wasn't for me. But every time I drive past that building on Highland, I swear I see a wet figure standing at the sliding doors, waiting. Some jobs you leave behind, others don't let you go. I had gotten used to quiet long before that night. Not peace, just quiet. Growing up in a single-bedroom apartment with paper-thin walls and a mother who worked doubles, silence filled my childhood. I learned to fill it with ambient music, lo-fi beats, anything without words. Maybe that's why I gravitated toward night shifts. Quiet felt natural to me. The Target at Riverton Loop wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work. I started after my 21st birthday in early September. I liked the solitude. Clock in, pop one earbud in. Stock shelves, keep moving. No customers to smile at. No small talk. Just me and the rhythm of routine. That Friday in January wasn't supposed to be any different. The storm outside, though, made the air feel heavier. Bakersfield didn't usually get storms like that. Sideways rain, rattling wind, flashes of lightning snapping against the big front windows like camera flashes. Our crew was small. Clay, who handled groceries with ease. Sylvia, our team lead, strict but fair. And Marcus, the new hire. He'd only been there a couple weeks. Quiet like me, but he had a look in his eyes like he was expecting something bad to happen. Around 1:15 a.m., I passed Marcus near bedding. He was just standing there, pale, staring down the aisle. "You good?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded too fast. "Yeah, just thought I saw somebody near toys." Might have been a customer, I frowned. "Doors lock at 10. He shrugged and turned away. I should have pressed him, but I didn't. Maybe I didn't want to think about it. The storm beat harder on the roof. The lights buzzed overhead like they were straining. Something in the air felt wrong. At 2:15 a.m., heading back from break, I stopped at aisle 19. The motion lights flicked on. Someone was at the far end, hoodie up, standing too still. "Hello?" I called. No response. "Store's closed. You can't be here. They didn't move." I backed away quickly, nearly bumping into a mop bucket, and radioed Sylvia. She came fast, Clay and Marcus behind her. By the time we reached the aisle, the lights dimmed back to sleep mode. Empty. Clean. "You sure?" she asked. "I saw them," I insisted. Marcus spoke low. "That's where I saw her, too." "Her?" Sylvia asked. He nodded. "Couldn't tell. Just felt wrong." Sylvia didn't like vague. "We'll check the cameras." As we headed to electronics, the ceiling lights flickered. Then came a thud, metal against metal. Marcus bolted ahead. Clay and I chased him, Sylvia swearing behind us. In electronics, we saw her, a girl, soaked through, hair plastered to her cheeks, barefoot, just standing between rows of TVs, fingers twitching, eyes glassy like she wasn't really seeing us. "Hey!" I called out. "Are you hurt?" Her cloudy eyes locked on mine. Then she moved, too fast, too silent, slipping between aisles. We followed seconds later. Nothing, no footprints, no door alarms. She was gone. Security ran the tapes. The cameras glitched at 1:39 a.m. 5 seconds of static. When the picture returned, a tall, shadowy smudge lingered in the middle of the frame. In the last shot before the glitch ended, a rack of toys toppled over on its own. "She wasn't on the cameras," security muttered. "Not once." Police came. They took statements, checked missing persons. No matches, nothing stolen, no forced entry. Clay said later, "It's like she didn't exist." But that didn't explain the wet footprints we'd seen, or the cold air that clung to the break room long after she vanished. Marcus quit 2 days later. Didn't even collect his check. Clay and I begged Sylvia for day shifts. She approved without a word. Still, I avoid aisle 19. Even on day shifts, the motion sensors buzz when nobody's near, and sometimes, on stormy nights, customers swear they see a wet girl between the TVs, just staring. I never thought much about overnight shifts until I started working them. I was 26 when I got hired at the Target in Glendale, Los Angeles. I'd bounced between jobs before: barista, delivery driver, even a short stint at a call center. But nothing ever stuck. Rent was getting steeper, and after my roommate moved out last summer, I couldn't afford to be picky. My mom used to tell me steady work matters more than exciting work. She'd worked nights at a hospital most of her life, so when the manager at Target offered me a permanent overnight stocking position, she said, "Take it. You'll get used to the hours." At first, I believed her. My shift usually ran 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The parking lot always looked the same when I arrived. Scattered cars, bright red bollards glowing faintly under the harsh lights, and the hum of the freeway just beyond. The crew wasn't big. Derek, the team lead, mid-30s, no nonsense, always carrying a thermos of black coffee. Lila, who worked grocery and kept everyone laughing. Javier, the tall guy from electronics who pretended not to care but actually worried about everything. And me, stuck mostly with home goods and seasonal. We weren't friends exactly, but night crews bond differently. When it's just 4 people in 100,000 square feet of empty store, you get used to the silence and the squeak of pallet jacks. Still, I liked the quiet. I liked walking down the long aisles when the overhead speakers were off, when the air smelled faintly of cardboard and floor cleaner. It reminded me of when I was a kid, those late-night trips with Mom when Target felt endless, like its own city. But that was before things shifted. It started slow. One Tuesday night in late October, I was breaking down boxes in bedding when I heard what sounded like a cart rolling. That wasn't unusual, and we all used carts. But the sound kept going, long, steady, like someone pushing fast and never stopping. I leaned out of the aisle, expecting to see Javier. Nothing. "Hello?" I called, my voice bouncing down the rows. Silence. The sound stopped too. When I told Derek about it later, he just shrugged. "Sound travels weird in here at night. The vents, the lights, even the compressors. You'll get used to it." I nodded, but something in my chest stayed uneasy. A week later, I saw something. I was restocking candles and home decor around 2 a.m. when I noticed a shadow across the floor. Clear as day, it stretched long across the aisle. I froze, thinking Derek or Lila was behind me. But when I turned around, nothing. "Jesus," I muttered under my breath. My hands shook a little as I put the candle down. That night, when we clocked out, Lila noticed. "You okay? You look spooked." "Yeah," I said, forcing a laugh. "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was rattled. Because for 1 second I was sure someone had been standing behind me. The worst part was the footsteps. 2 weeks later, I was alone in seasonal, setting up the early Christmas displays. Fake trees, tinsel, plastic reindeer, the whole thing. The store felt heavier than usual, like the air itself didn't want me there. Then I heard them. Slow, steady footsteps. Not close, but not far. I straightened up, heart pounding. "Derek?" No answer. "Lila?" "Javier?" Silence. The steps stopped when I stopped. I forced myself down the aisle, gripping the box cutter in my hand like it would help. When I turned the corner, the entire row was empty. But the shelf tags on the end cap were fluttering, like someone had just brushed past them. That night, I couldn't sleep after work. I kept replaying the sound in my head, telling myself I imagined it. But part of me knew I hadn't. And then Marcus showed. Marcus was new. Hired early November, around the holiday rush. He was maybe 22, skinny, with dark hair that fell into his eyes. Quiet kid. Kept his head down. On his 3rd night, he came up to me near the break room. "You ever hear stuff in here?" he asked quietly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He looked at the floor. "Like carts moving. Footsteps. But when you check, nobody's there." My stomach dropped. "Yeah," I admitted. "I've heard that." Marcus swallowed hard. I thought I was losing it. "No," I said quickly, "it's not just you." We didn't tell Derek. He'd just laugh it off. But from then on, Marcus and I gave each other these looks whenever something small happened. A flicker in the lights, a noise from 2 aisles over. Like we both knew we weren't imagining it. One night in mid-November, it escalated. I was with Marcus and toys, stocking shelves. The air smelled faintly of plastic and rubber. We were joking about how every parent would fight to the death over the last action figure next month, when suddenly all the motion lights flicked on at once. Not just in our aisle. The entire row of toys lit up in sequence, like someone was walking down it. But we were alone. Marcus froze, his eyes wide. "Tell me you saw that." I nodded slowly, my throat dry. Then at the far end of the aisle, a toy fell. Just one. A doll in a bright pink box. It slid forward and landed on the floor with a dull thud. We didn't move for a full 30 seconds. Finally, Marcus whispered, "I'm not finishing this aisle." And we left everything half done. That was the night I realized this wasn't just sounds. Something was in the store. I never thought I'd end up working nights at a Target, but life has a way of shoving you where you don't plan to go. I was 28, living in a crummy studio apartment in Highland Park, Los Angeles. Rent ate up more than half my paycheck from my old job at the car rental place, and when they cut my hours, I panicked. Bills stacked fast. That's when I saw the hiring sign. Overnight stock associates needed. Apply inside. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. 10 at night to 6 in the morning. At first, it was almost peaceful. The store looked different at night. Aisles stretching out quiet and empty. Shelves half-stocked. The smell of floor cleaner sharp in the air. The world outside slowed down, and in here it felt like we were the only people alive. My crew was small. Maya, a sharp, no-nonsense shift lead in her mid-30s. Devin, the kind of guy who cracked jokes nonstop just to stay awake. Sandra, quiet, older, who'd been at this Target longer than anyone. And me, just trying to keep up. We weren't friends exactly, but there's something about night shifts. The silence, the way time drags, that forces people to trust each other faster. For the first month, everything was normal. We stocked shelves, hauled pallets, made dumb small talk in the break room. But around the second month, little things started happening. It began one night in January. I was restocking detergent in the back of the cleaning aisle. It was close to 2 a.m., and the store had that heavy quiet, the kind that presses against your ears. That's when I heard it, the sound of a shopping cart rolling down the tile. It wasn't near me. It was faint but steady. The thing is, none of us used carts at that hour. We had pallets and flatbeds. I froze, listening. The sound got closer, wheels squeaking like they were rusty. "Devin," I called out. My voice echoed down the aisle. The sound stopped. I waited, my chest tight. After a minute of silence, I forced a laugh to myself. Building's big. Sound bounces. Nothing weird. I told myself that until my shift ended. 2 nights later, Devin cornered me in the break room. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice. "You ever hear carts moving when nobody's pushing them?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah," I said carefully. His grin faltered. "So I'm not losing my mind." Before we could talk more, Maya walked in holding her clipboard. She gave us both a look. "What are you two whispering about?" "Nothing," Devin said quickly. But we both knew it wasn't nothing. Things escalated fast after that. The freezer section was the worst. It was colder than it should have been, even with the doors shut. Sandra swore she saw condensation drifting through the aisles once, like someone had opened a door and left it. One night, Maya sent me to check a pallet in the back room. I pushed through the swinging doors, the kind that slam shut behind you. The back room lights hummed overhead. Stacks of boxes towered around me, and that's when I heard breathing. Not mine, not shallow, not panicked, just steady, slow breathing. I spun around, expecting to see Devin hiding, pulling a prank, but the room was empty. I stood there, holding my box cutter, every hair on my arm standing up. The breathing went on for another few seconds, close enough that I swear I could feel it. Then it stopped. I left the pallet where it was and went back to the floor. By February, we were all on edge. Maya pretended nothing was wrong, but her tight jaw said otherwise. Devin kept joking, but his jokes were weaker. Sandra barely spoke anymore. And me? I started dreading clocking in. One night around 3:30 a.m., I was zoning out while straightening end caps near seasonal. Devin was 2 aisles over. I heard him talking like he was chatting with someone. I walked over. "Who you talking to?" I asked. He froze. His face went pale. "I thought it was you." We stood there in silence, the empty aisle stretching out in front of us. The final straw came the week before I quit. It was raining hard outside, only 4 of us in the building. Around 1:45, Maya sent me and Devin to toys. The aisles were dark until we moved through them, the motion lights flickering on one by one. Halfway down the Barbie section, a box fell, then another. We both stopped. One by one, boxes started sliding off the shelves, not like they were tipping, like invisible hands were pulling them. Devon swore under his breath. Nope, nope. He turned to run and froze. At the far end of the aisle, under the dim light, someone was standing. A woman. Her clothes were soaked, her hair clinging to her face like she'd come in from the storm. Barefoot. Still. Maya, I whispered, though I knew it wasn't her. The woman tilted her head like she was curious. Then she stepped forward. The lights flickered. For a second, she wasn't walking. She was closer, like the space between us just collapsed. Devon bolted. I followed. When we found Maya and Sandra in the break room, Devon was shaking. He swore he'd never set foot in the store again. And he didn't. He quit that night. I lasted one more week before I left too. Sometimes when I drive past Highland Park Target late at night, the red lights glowing like beacons, I think about that soaked woman in the toy aisle, and I wonder if she's still waiting.